This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 442, and my guest today is my great friend, Todd Swaggerty, founder of YellowLetterHQ. Todd is a real estate investor, but also runs the largest real estate investor-specific direct mail house in the nation, sending a few million pieces of mail a month. Now, Todd has a unique perspective on having his ear to the ground on direct mail lead generation, unlike maybe anyone else in America. And today he goes all in on kind of a state of the union on what's working now in direct mail, because it is still working. You just have to be smart about it. Most successful real estate investors use direct mail as a significant portion of their lead generation tools for their business. So you do not want to miss today's powerful show. Lots of great information and nuggets shared. Please help me welcome Todd Swaggerty to the show. Hey, Todd, welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm pumped to talk about what we're going to talk about today because, I came in really in a down market when the market was just starting to go down, 2008. It depends on where you were in the country.
Right.
And I don't think anybody thinks we're at 2007, 8, 9 right now. But things have softened a little bit, and we've been so spoiled that everybody's taking note to what's going on there. So it's going to be exciting to talk about how to use this as an opportunity, and specifically from your area of expertise on direct mail. But I know you as an awesome guy. We've become great friends, and we do a lot of things together. Appreciate you more than you know. But some people that are listening right now might not know who this Todd Swaggerty guy is. So tell us a little bit more about you and your background.
All right, buddy. Well, I'll start way from the beginning. Back when I first started my adulthood, back when I was in high school, I was one of the few guys who knew exactly what the heck they wanted to do, right? And for me, I wanted to be a fireman. And I joined up with the force really early in an Explorer program in high school, and that ventured on for me to have a full-fledged career as a firefighter paramedic with a agency here in San Diego. And that job was awesome, man. It really afforded me kind of the same things I still pursue in my business. And that is, I couldn't necessarily put it in these terms at the time, but, 15, 20 years later, I kind of can, which is to have the freedom of time, relationship, and money for my life and for my family. The fire department, you have a decent job that's well paying. You have lots of time off, and your salary's decent. And I thought that's exactly what I wanted to do till death did us part. And as time went on and I became older, I started a family, I got married. I realized, well, heck, I'm still kind of working for a bureaucracy. And so in that fact, it's hard for me to kind of make my future exactly how I want it to be. And it was kind of challenging too, because I live in San Diego. It's an expensive place. And so freedom of money equated to working more overtime, which would be more time away from my family. So it was a wonderful job. It was a great job, but I decided, hey, I need to start doing something. So back in about the same time as you, I started, I knew I missed the whole 2004, 5, 6 bubble. And I was thinking, well, how the heck can I just get into business for myself, working for myself on my days off? And so that started with me. I had my truck and trailer. I had a kind of a background in construction on my days off, and I started cleaning up all the foreclosed homes. So I started doing that, and then I started doing pretty good at it, and it was back when no one else was doing it. So I was able to land a contract through a contractor for Countrywide. And if you remember back then, Countrywide was the bee's knees on loans. They were the biggest around. So we got that contract for Countrywide, and my small 3 or 4 person business exploded to 20, 25 plus contractors.
Wow.
Servicing all the foreclosures, servicing all of the monthly services, and it just exploded. And so I was able to make a couple of bucks there, and I realized, hey, well, I'm still kind of working for bureaucracy. I'm working for a bank, right? And so it's still a bunch of rules. I can't really kind of design how I want to pursue my life, and I don't really have any control over it. So A couple of years later, I started, because in that industry, and during that time, 2008, 9, 10, if you weren't working with real estate agents, it was kind of hard to get acquisitions. It wasn't hard, but if you wanted to scale and get a lot, that's who you had to first get the lead sources from. And so I started doing that, and then I realized, well, heck, that's kind of the same thing. I'm at the mercy of these real estate agents. I'm not really talking to the buyer, and the seller. And how do I have kind of more control of this? And I got a lead from a guy who I had met and became good friends with after the fact, Luis Ontiveros. Yeah, I think you've had him on the show before.
Yeah, I know Luis really well.
Yeah, and so he assigned a property to me. I'm like, well, what the heck is this? How is this possible? And so what it really did for me was really define that, hey, I can kind of have more control over where I want to go. I can have more control over my business and the sales process. Now, I don't want to be a dictator, but I want to be directly add value to the person I'm dealing with. All the problems get solved between me, the buyer, and the seller. And there's nobody in the middle. There was no interference. So that communication gap was gone. So I started doing that, and then I started doing my own direct mail because, I grew up in the fire service. I only wanted to do that. I didn't have a lot of business background. I didn't have a lot of systems or even the aptitude necessarily to be, on the phone and doing sales types activity. That's kind of what we're doing. We're a marketing company, no matter what you do in real estate. So I'm like, you know what? I want to maximize this mail piece, and I want to do everything in-house. I want to know everything about this topic. So I started doing my own mail in-house, and then I started doing it for other people in my industry.
So you got good at it, and people said, hey, can you do mine? And yeah.
And so
necessity is the mother of invention, right? You hear that stuff all the time. Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Right. And so I wanted to kind of maximize that. I didn't want to, at the time, to do a letter, it was like $1. It was really expensive. It just didn't make a bunch of sense. And I was wondering, how the heck to transverse myself in all this. And so I started doing it for myself. And then I'm like, I can't stand behind a machine all day as I want to grow my business. I brought on other investors in my local market who wanted to do it. And I started doing it for them and me. And that just kind of snowballed, man. It snowballed year after year. And then, actually having a website and things like this, and then learning how to run a print shop, which is more challenging than I had ever.
I'm sure. Nothing is easy, right? But you went from doing it yourself, probably getting bigger and more machines and putting more systems and processes in place and turned into a real business, huh?
Right. And so that's where we're at now. I don't think that anybody spends more time than me on the phone with investors throughout the country, knowing what's going on, or has a better pulse of what's going on with the direct mail marketing, maybe even in the country. And so that's really a unique thing to have and to be useful in that way.
Yeah.
To my customers and my friends like you that are in the business. So it's been a really great thing. Something that was really frustrating at first to understand and kind of to work with. It's been pretty cool. So that's what we do. That's what we do now. We're able to fulfill marketing for investors, specifically only in the direct to seller niche. That's all that we do. And we're able to really help them in their organization, in their lead flow, and in the lists and the leadership of acquiring that list and knowing what to do.
If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more.
And it's been pretty cool. So that's what we do. That's what we do now. We're able to fulfill marketing for investors, specifically only in the direct-to-seller niche. That's all that we do. And we're able to really help them in their organization, in their lead flow, and in the lists and the leadership of acquiring that list and knowing what to do. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you're the go-to guy for direct mail, no doubt. So, and you went from sending a few letters for yourself to sending, just to give some perspective, several million pieces of mail a month for investors all around the country, right?
Yeah, so it's a few million, not several, but it's a few million, and it grows every month. And so,
what's the difference between several and a few? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm not really kidding, but we don't have time to talk about that.
Yeah.
But so, Todd, we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the market. So, here we sit. The market is slowing down a little bit. Our people are, investors are nervous about it. Part of it is we're just spoiled, right? Like 3 days, 7 days on the market is not the norm anymore in a lot of parts of the market. And some markets, even we've been taking some price cuts on houses, and that's not something we've done for a long time. So the market is slowing down, which, I've been saying for years. I didn't know when it was going to slow down. And you kind of know that it's going to cycle down at some point. But, I don't want bad things to happen in the market, but I know that creates opportunity, right? And that's what we really want to talk about today, is a little bit about what's going on in the market, what you're seeing as a direct mail expert, and what people can take away from that and kind of apply to their business to effectively kind of turn lemons into lemonade, if you will. So tell us a little bit about the state of the market. Like, what do you think is going on from your perspective, and what do you see from all the customers that you have access to and talk to regularly?
Sure. Yeah. Well, there is a slowdown in the market systemically. Some places more than others, and some places not at all. Yeah. But overall, there's definitely a slowdown occurring, and exactly like you said, it's probably a good thing, because we can only maintain being able to sell a house in a day or two or three.
Right.
So long. Is it great? Absolutely. But it does have to shift and does have to change. And on one hand, I'm kind of glad that it's here. So we are definitely seeing that, and we're actually seeing a thinning of the herd when it comes to the kind of the quick guru space and the the one-hit wonders. And so we're seeing a thinning of that, which is great. And so response rates are up. Response rates are up, but as investors, our education is also up, because we have to communicate to our sellers what's going on in the market. And we need certain ways to prove that. And so all that does, though, is it's going to increase our response rates. It's going to increase our conversions, and it just kind of changes our market cycle, if you will. Makes it a little bit longer as they investigate for themselves that they're not going to be getting the kind of action they thought they were going to be getting on their properties before, selling it for as much or as quickly. So the investor who is ready to stay in this for the long game is going to be in a prime position. The investor who is preparing themselves and really kind of knowing their market is going to be in the pole position. And so even now, the guys that have been around a while or have some good sales skills, they're really going at it. Their response rates are increasing, and so is their deal flow. So it's not all bad. There's still people to sell to.
Yeah. There's always going to be, let's say from an acquisition standpoint, there's always going to be people that are dying, getting divorced, death, inheritance, problem rentals. Those things are always going to exist. Like, they don't follow. It's like people don't tear rentals up less in a good or bad market. They're just tear them up because they don't understand personal responsibility. And unfortunately, that doesn't follow market cycles. And so there's always going to be opportunities out there. But like you said, it's kind of funny. We were at a Starbucks or somewhere here in the past week or so. And, they have like the newspaper stands, and they have I don't buy the newspaper, but every once in a while I see a stand like that where it's like I see the front of the newspaper. And I think it was USA Today, or it might have been Dallas Morning News where I'm at here. And literally the headline, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something to the effect of like market slowest at any point in 8 years, or, it's like the housing real estate market is, in free fall or so. They use, the media always uses these words that are crazy. And the reality is right or wrong, even though I don't believe that, all the people that are sitting at home watching the news all day long, they're being conditioned that the market is slowing. And truthfully, they've used that against us for years, that the market's on fire.
Right.
And so now when you can go in and talk to sellers, and, a lot of sales techniques and things that, our friends like John Martinez teach, is you can start to plant seeds and drop some little breadcrumbs about, wow, you've probably seen the market's slowing down quite a bit. So, might be a good time to sell in case it drops anymore. You can find ways to kind of help lean into what the media is already telling people all day long, which, the reality is as long as you buy the house right, you can make money in up and down markets just the same. So.
Yep, exactly. So I still think it's a great time to be in the direct-to-seller market and in a few marketing channels, and just that ability to educate and allow a few months really to go by that the sellers are self-educating basically on all of the news media that you're covering. It's going to just spring right back. And so it's just an adjustment that we're all going through, and it's a thinning of the herd that I think we were all kind of waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the people that are going, if you're listening to this right now and you are new or newer, just know there's an opportunity here. If you get caught up in the hype and say, well, the market is going down, that means I better get out. I mean, truthfully, the best time to get in is when the market is trending down, because, a lot of the competition goes away. And if you're one that goes away, then you're going to miss out on the opportunity, right?
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about, and I've noticed the difference too. We get we have a rental portfolio. We get lots of postcards and letters, even to our rental properties. And that stack that we get every week is dwindling. I can see it. And truthfully, let me put this in perspective. I can tell you that there are some heavy hitters that are in my market that I know who they are, successful investors that have been doing the business for a long time. I still get their postcards. Like the people that know what they're doing, they stay true to their business, and they're not pulling back. What's going away are the ones that are like the one-off people that I get a postcard one time. Like a lot of those are starting to go away, and those are the people that you say kind of thinning of the herd. Those are the ones that haven't had any level of success. They're trying to figure it out without really knowing what they're doing, maybe. And those are the ones that are kind of starting to go away just because they're not seeing the results that they thought they would.
Sure, and there's a certain level of commitment from a investor who has been around a little while and kind of understands that the marketing is the lifeblood of your business.
Yep.
And they're not equating it to you're not getting a deal for a month or two, but they're looking at their marketing, especially with direct mail, over the long haul. They know that it's a win-win proposition, and they're not looking at the first couple of weeks, months, or small mail campaigns that they send out. And so if we're just talking about direct mail specifically, the great part about that too, in the why they continue to do it, is it's a benefit in direct mail that doesn't equate to any other marketing channel. Is that they get that postcard in their hand and they are putting it in that top desk drawer when that timing is right, and they're pulling it back out to call you. There's no other marketing strategy can do that, and you can't equate that by month. That takes 6 months, a year, or plus to be able to happen. So there's a small measure before it's proven to you. You have to have that commitment and faith that that's what's occurring, and it's factually what's occurring, and that's the only way those guys are staying in business. And that's the cadence for direct mail. It's not necessarily something that's going to be hitting right away.
Right.
It's 1, 3, 6, 9 a year later, and if you're consistent and you've built that momentum, well, keep that momentum, keep the train going, and the lead flow is going to happen. Your ROI is going to be 6, 8, 10 times on your spend, and it's really kind of for me a marketing piece that you can't lose, because of the staying power, and because that's what we're waiting for, right? We're waiting for timing. We're waiting for the situation to be right by then. If we give them an intriguing mail piece, if we communicated who we are, if we put a picture of ourselves, who we are on there, and branded ourselves versus just our business, because the direct, not to get off on a tangent, but the sellers, they want to deal with a mom and pop professional. They don't want to deal with a necessarily big organization or a branded name. And if they did, they would be calling it a real estate agent. They want to deal with a mom and pop professional, same person that gives them that mail piece, is the same person who's coming to sit on the couch with them and help them solve their problems. And they can kind of see verify them and all that.
Sure. Build this relationship. Yeah. This is a relationship business at the end of the day. Right. So let's actually get into some of the tactics. Okay. So some of the stuff that you've seen, and we're kind of talking about state of the market, really the economy. Let's kind of go into state of the market and direct mail, like what's working now. And so you have your ear to the ground like nobody else in direct mail for sure. And you know, some discussions that always come up are what are some good lists, what's working now, and then what are some good kind of what's working in kind of the pieces, you know, postcards, letters, cheap stuff versus glossy stuff. Like you said, big brand or kind of company branding versus like, hey, I'm Joe, your local house buyer, all those things. But let's start with lists first. Let's get into lists. Like some of the better lists that you see that are working right now, or maybe even a couple that you see that, you know, maybe you could drop a couple nuggets of lists that people just don't focus on enough, but there's opportunity there.
Right. So that's kind of a loaded question, and I want to preference first by saying that every market is different. And I wish my job would be so much easier if I could say, go get this one list, and man, you're going to just kill it. So let's preference that. Every market is different, and that's actually a good thing for the investor because they can do some searching and they can really kind of find out what's working best for the market. So really the best list is kind of a tiered approach. I mean, you got your niches, then you kind of your broad niche list, and then your big wide open list. The guys that are, and we're going to start in reverse here. The guys that are the big players are mailing to people their highest potential to sell to them, right? And so that's a lot of the times that's big wide open lists of absentee and owner-occ, generally speaking, high equity. And own their property 15, 20 years plus, and possibly all of those age demographics are in there for the absentee and the owner-occ of, you know, 55 older or higher. And so basically, guys that are at that level, they're hitting all the niche lists by casting a very wide net, and they're successful due to that because they're also gaining timing. And this is what we were talking about earlier. It's all about timing. And so if you're in front of a participant, if you're in front of a seller consistently, and they're always thinking who they're going to sell to, and they're always getting your mail pieces, you're casting a wide net. You have a lot more people raising their hands in that wide net of wanting to sell to you. And so that's why people who mail a lot can be very successful. Then they're growing that momentum, and that just snowballs into something that's you know 4, 5, 8 times, 10 times plus on their money. Then getting back to the broad niche list, that's stuff we're doing on purpose. That's things like interfamily deeds. That's a property that's been transferred from a trust to an heir, and that can be done recently, or that's something that can be done you know, 8, 10 years down the line, that they still have this property they inherited, and the appetite for that property from that investor is still something that they've inherited, and their predisposition to want to sell it easily. And that's where we come in.
And the interfamily deed transfer is kind of a precursor or a way to avoid effectively probate, right? Like, hey, we know dad's terminal, he's going to die. Like, let's just transfer the deed to the house now and not have to go through all that legal stuff down the road. I mean, those are the types of decisions that are happening, right?
Yeah. So basically what that is, it's an inheritance list. And, and, you know, even a step before that is probate, which is the first one, and consequently the last one we'll talk about. But these seller participants have done this on purpose. They've planned, and they said, okay, we're putting this property in a trust, and when mom or dad passes, it goes to the executor, and then interfamily transfer deed is established. Now, what a lot of guys do is they hit them so hard at the beginning, along with everybody else. As soon as somebody inherits a property, or as soon as a property goes into probate. What guys don't do is follow up with those leads 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years after the fact that they inherit this property. A lot of times what happens is A, they're not willing, ready to make a decision. B, they haven't. And they'll get to a point where the timing's right for them. Uncle Johnny's been living in the house rent-free forever, and they're just done with it. Market's doing well, or they see a decline in the market. They're seeing a decline in the market. They're like, well, hey, let's get rid of this thing as soon as we can before we lose any more equity. So there's those types of lists, and there's a few more of them. The unknowns, unknowns are great. You can get those off of list source of equity, the unknown transfer dates. And a lot of times, all those unknowns are unknowns because they're intervalley transfer deed, to be quite honest. Right. But the way you find that out, not to get off on a tangent, is really dig into the solds for your area. We'll get into that next, but then there's the niche list. If you're a beginning investor, you're probably going to want to be starting a niche list. It's hard to scale with niche lists. It's hard to grow a very large business just on niche lists.
The niche lists are kind of the cream off the top. And, if you're, depending on the size of your market that you're in, if you're spending less than $5,000 a month, let's say on direct mail, you probably should stay in the niche list. Like, you shouldn't go on to the ones you mentioned up front, which are like, over 65 and they have a lot of equity in their house. Because that's not real motivation, like a probate or interfamily deed transfer or tax liens for 3 years or anything like that. Like that is like, hey, there's really two pieces, right? There's like, could they sell if they want to? Do they have the equity to be able to sell if they wanted to? And then are they motivated to sell? And so, if they're over a certain age and they have a lot of equity in their house, they could sell, but that doesn't mean motivation. And so you don't really kind of move into those. It's a seller that's less likely to sell to you at a discount, right? But you should not start there. You should start in the niches. So.
Right.
So tell us some more about these.
So the niches we kind of all know about. Even if you're a beginning investor, that's kind of what you're digging into. And so the best one, if we're going to start from the bottom up, the best one is, and the hardest one to get at first, is going to be driving for dollars. You go into your market in your picking areas, investors are working in, and you're just combing the streets, and it seems, challenging and cumbersome, and you have to get 5, 6, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 to get a good basis. But those are going to be your best converting, your best lead sources, and they're easy to get. And so when you're first starting out and you're wanting to, how the heck do I get this going? I can't afford $6,000, $7,000 a month. Well, that's where you start. You start with knowing your market, knowing what is selling in your market by going to maybe your title company or different services like Property Radar or PropStream, where you can look at solds that have sold for cash off market. And so you're looking at what types of properties those are, where they're at, how they became in that position. Is it an interfamily transfer deed on it? Was it owner occ? And so you're kind of approaching it from that perspective. Who is selling? And also by your zip codes. So you're combing those zip codes. You're doing driving for dollars. And then you go into some of the niche lists based on what you just saw selling for cash in your market. And it could be the probates. It could be the tax delinquents for your market. Tax delinquents that have been tax delinquents for a little while. Most places, you can be tax delinquent for quite a few years before it means anything. So you kind of have to do that footwork. And so on the niche list, it's the greatest amount of work for sure, but it's the highest ROI and your best chance of utilizing direct mail and hitting a person who has a motivation to sell to you.
Yeah, that's one of the things we tell our students is like, it's easy to say, just go buy a list, just rely on somebody else to come up with your list. And at the end of the day, it's harder work, but you got to do the work. Like we know this about real estate investors and all people. Like people are generally lazy, right? So they want the path of least resistance. Let me just do the cheap, and we're cheap too, right? So let me just do the cheapest list and the cheapest postcard I could possibly find, and not put in a little bit of extra effort or a little bit of additional investment.
Yeah.
But the reality is if you were to kind of look at the pool of all real estate investors, like most of them are doing that. If you are willing to get down and dirty a little bit, dig into some of these lists and really learn what they mean and focus on, we won't probably have a lot of time talking about list stacking today,
Right.
but looking at people that are on multiple lists for motivation, then the reality is your ROI, your success can be much higher, but you just you got to kind of get off the proverbial couch and be willing to do a little bit of work, right?
Right, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. And that's one of the most frustrating things I have in my job is assisting direct-to-seller investors, is that they're not necessarily willing. Everybody wants, even guys that are successful and doing well, they just don't want to have to deal with data aggregation. And data combing, data aggregation, what's selling to who in your market, what are the most active lead sources in your market, digging into that will, for me, is directly related to the long game in your business. If you are in this business for the long game, if you are in this business to have freedom of time, money, and relationship, and that's what you want, the first thing you have to know and you have to keep your entire investing career is your data aggregation, knowing what's going on, building upon that. That and the leadership of your company are the two most important things in your business. And I see so many very successful investors wanting to give up that lead aggregation to some high-priced courthouse go-getter person when they could do all that stuff themselves and really see if it's working or not. And 9 times out of 10, people who go to those types of agencies come on back to their to the roots and just have to figure out what's going on in their market. And if they have the pulse and it shifts, right? It's shifting right now. What's going to be happening? If they have the pulse on it, then they can jockey it and move and know exactly where their cheese is made. So you can't give that up. You have to start from the beginning. It sucks, but it's just, you got to know everything about your lead and aggregation. So
let's talk a little bit about the mail piece. So there's always this, there's always these kind of age-old questions: letters versus postcards. There's always the cheap, cheap paper and the cheapest thing you can get, or some oversized, glossy on super heavy cardstock. I mean, there's lots. Obviously, there's a million different flavors, but kind of real high level here.
Sure.
What in your experience? What works better? Let's just kind of start with letters versus postcards. Sure. What do you say?
Letters versus postcards is going to be one of those things where you're starting out, and if you've done all this work to gather a niche and you've done all this data aggregation, you want to put your best foot forward. And oftentimes in my market, because I send only letters, is that I'm dealing with other direct sellers who only send letters, right? And so you kind of get rid of the postcard guys, but that can only last so long that you can do that and have the ROI make sense.
Yeah.
So we're going to stick with your niches. You're going to want to do letters a minimum of, on a niche list, it really kind of depends, but 30-day intervals, max of 60, right? And then you can switch on and off quarterly if you want between letters and postcards. We'll get into a little bit of the content of the letter and the postcards and things. But then after that, if you're sending, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 mail pieces in a market that is not a very, that maybe has houses for sale for $150,000, $200,000 plus, you probably want to stick to postcards and keep the letters for your niche stuff. And then periodically on your large list, you can send a letter, maybe send 2 letters in your 60-day cadence, your quarterly cadence a year, and have it with postcards. And the content of the letters and postcards is highly debated. And there's so much emphasis put on font and ink color and all that kind of stuff. It's not really that important. First thing you want to do is get noticed in the mail stack, right? So your postcard or your letter can do that. Your postcard, you can do that by a multitude of things. The street view is very, very popular. And depending on your market, you might have an adverse reaction to that. And so we have a
and by the way, for those that didn't know what that was, a Street View on your letter and postcard. So Todd has the ability at his company to pull in a Google Street View picture, so you can kind of say, "Hey, we want to buy this house," and have that's an arrow like pointing at it, right? By the way, you could basically, it catches your attention, right? If you see that versus somebody else, you're like, "How do they get a picture of my house?" Now, there's some adverse effects to that too, but anyway, high level, you have the ability to pull in a Google Street View into your mail, and it catches people's attention because it's unique. At least it's different for now. So
and so that grabs their attention. They're looking at it and they're going, "What the heck is this?" And you give them that 3 or 4 or 5 seconds to digest what you're saying, and then they identify a need with what you're saying, right? And so there's other ways to soften the blow of that adverse reaction. Is first, you do a small picture on the front of the postcard. You're saying, "Hey, is this property for sale? I've never driven by it. I got this picture off the internet, but I just wanted to get your attention." That's what you're doing. The purpose of that is to capture their attention. That's it. And so on the back of that postcard, you're going to have your basics. Hey, we can make the sale process easy by for sale as is. All that stuff we already know, and it's across the board on all of our pieces.
Sure.
And then for me, I want to soften the blow a little bit. I want to tell them exactly who I am. At Mike, at your mastermind that I'm a part of, Investor Fuel, Trevor Mock, the owner of OnCare, is there. And he was saying that the highest viewed portion of the website is the About Us. Now, we always want to make it about the seller. It's always about them. But when we tell them a few things about us, we're actually making it about them because it makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So anytime you can drop the veil of who you are as a business owner, show them who you are, and be searchable. Facebook page with a bunch of work that you've been doing, examples of people you've sold, FaceTime, video time on your Facebook page, and maybe a QR code on that postcard, on that letter, with a quick introduction video. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'd like to get a chance to speak to you about your property and see if I can be any help to you. If that's true, go ahead and call us at this number.
Yeah.
And you've opened the door, you've introduced yourself, and you've done something no other investor in our market is doing, right? And so, not to get off on a tangent, but so letters and postcards. So you want to do both of those things I discussed on a letter or a postcard. And you want to give a sentence or two about who you are, what you can do for them, kind of drop the veil of who you are as a direct seller investor. Of course, you want your logo on there. You want to be discernible by you, picture you, maybe you and your family. This kind of puts the guard down, and it's the same one. They identify that every time your mail piece and your logo. So, and then letters versus postcards. Postcards are for when you're starting to ramp up the quantity a bunch, but you still want to have those soft, subtle touches. The doodle does the same thing kind of as the Street View. It just kind of makes them squint, and that whole direct mail fatigue of, well, what the heck is this? And 3 or 4 seconds to digest it and see what it is. And then with the letters, different color envelopes help. Just going, what the heck is this? This is not normal. Let me see what it is. Yeah. After you get past that, that's all the work a mail piece can do for you. Make it a little bit inquisitive, kind of make it a little transparent on who you are, communicate your message. That's all you can do. And then the rest is for your sales process.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't even know. We've met with 10, 15,000 sellers, over the past 10 years probably. And if I look back, but, we didn't buy 10 or 15,000 houses. Like we met with a lot of people, and, ultimately, a small percentage of that maybe that we actually bought houses from, relatively speaking. But if you look back to all those cases, like they ultimately sold to us because they trusted us. They trusted us to solve their problem. There was a relationship there. Now, it's not like we play poker together now and we're hanging out and taking vacations together afterwards, but they trusted us enough to say, this person could solve my problem. And you don't have to have that relationship with 100% of people, because 100% of people don't need you to solve their problem, and you probably couldn't solve their problem. But for the ones that need it most, that relationship is why that's so important. They're like, yes, I have this issue going on, whatever their issue might be. And they are thinking about, how can I solve this? Who can I trust? Right. So we know, anybody that's been a real estate investor for a while, you bought a lot of houses, that there are sellers that that every once in a while are telling you things that some of their closest family members don't know.
Right.
Right. And that you should feel good about that if you've gotten to that point, because you became a trusted advisor for that person. They trusted you. And so back to your point here is the more you can start to plant those seeds in your letters of, I'm a real person, my family lives here, we help people in the area with real estate problems, challenging real estate problems, and effectively you can trust me too, right?
Exactly.
Planting those seeds along the way. And so, and then generally, I know your belief is that a letter is just more personable than a postcard, because if done right, it looks less like a solicitation and more like an invitation, if you will, right? An invitation to let me help you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man.
Awesome.
I know we could talk about these things for forever. So, By the way, if you guys, this is the cool thing about Todd, by the way, if you're sending direct mail now, or you're thinking about getting started or whatever, like, he's so giving of his time. And I don't know if I should say that to knowing, I do believe that, but like, there's obviously a lot of people that listen to the show here. So, Todd, what's your cell phone number again? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Exactly.
But at the end of the day, his company is so helpful at sharing this information with customers and prospective customers that, back to kind of solving people's problems. Like if you're sending direct mail and you're really kind of stuck and you don't know exactly what to do, they'll openly tell their customers, here, I just heard this from somebody and we tested it and it's working really well, so we advise this. And so you got like a little bit of a consultation there as well with Todd and YellowLetterHQ. So should definitely
and definitely, you're absolutely right, and definitely do it, because one thing I've learned is that just like what we were talking before, no one's going to put in the extra effort to even pick up the phone and ask us. They're just going to go based off of something.
Yeah, to put some perspective, when we started working together, I don't know if you ever remember this part, but I was using a different mail company for a long time. I was using a big kind of corporate branded over glossy postcard. And, whenever I ordered through them, they weren't real estate specific, but they were a huge mail house, just not real estate specific.
Right.
And, I would have to come up with the idea of what I want on the postcard. I'd have to send them our graphics, and then they would make it all happen. And until I started talking to you, and I was like, well, hey, we've got this graphic. And you're like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Just use this one. We've already got this created. You pick from one of these 5 designs. These are working well right now. And I was just kind of like, wow, that's not only easier, but I have the perspective of somebody actually telling me, here's what's working now. Just replicate what we're already doing,
Yeah, and that's where you can do a few things to take basic templates that we're using that's working and kind of still make it your own. We can definitely duplicate anything that you want created, but you can take what we've already have and roll with it and make your own unique changes unique to you. And sometimes that's where the whole family picture thing comes into play. And at the end of the day, you can kind of just customize and make it exactly how you want, or take one of our proven templates. Because at the end of the day, the seller is only thinking about selling to the property to somebody they trust. All this other weird stuff that we tweak out about and try to kind of have control over as our business owners to make our business better has no weight. There's no weight on ink color. There's weight on actually having a colored postcard versus a black and white postcard, because it simply just gets noticed in the stack. But one color versus another color doesn't have the weight. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So kind of bring us home, Todd. We're talking about a lot of stuff here. For people that are listening right now and they're like, wow, this is all really helpful. And either there might be a veteran real estate investor that's been doing things one way for a long time and it's not working as good as it used to, or somebody that's getting started that, doesn't really know where to start from and how to kind of discern all the information that we just talked about here. So give us just like an overview of in the next minute or so of how do you move forward with this information and where we are in the economy right now and where we are with the knowledge that you shared today on lists versus letters and staying consistent and all that. Kind of summarize it, if you will.
Right. Well, I think it's kind of the summarization of our entire talk here, and it equates to everybody across the board. Is number one, have a commitment to doing it. If you're going to do it, be able to do it a minimum of 6 months and have the reserves to do that, and choose your marketing strategy based on that. So you committed to do it, and knowing your market, knowing your avatar of your seller, knowing your data. And so that's going to apply to everybody, big businesses and businesses that have been doing very well just based on being able to blast big mail campaigns out, right? So be consistent, and that first starts with the commitment. knowing your data, and then dropping the veil of who you are as a business owner. Let them know who the heck you are. These one-off postcards that are nondescript and people not even putting their actual real return mail address and all that, you want to be searchable. They want to see you. Who are we dealing with, and how much can they find out about you before they ever pick up the phone? It used to be that, hey, we didn't want them to find out much about us because we just wanted them to pick up the phone. The problem with that nowadays is they have 30, 40 other postcards that they can do that with, and it's just all based on timing. So get rid of that perspective. Let who you are show through a little bit, and that's your uniqueness, right? And that's how you're setting yourself apart. And that's basically it. If you're committed to it, you're going to do it. You're going to follow through. You're going to do the research, and you're going to know what data points are working well in your area. And you're going to build that momentum. You're going to be in front of the right sellers for a long period of time. And then all that marketing strategy, all you have to work with now is your own sales strategy and making sure that's all in line, right?
Yep.
So if you use those three components, and all you have to worry about is you being consistent with the follow-ups and your back-end systems. And you don't have to put so much energy and effort into the mail piece itself. Put that energy and effort into your data aggregation, and then over to the sales side, and leave the mail piece creation kind of out of it, as long as you're being transparent and searchable.
Awesome. Man, this was some very powerful information, Todd. Thanks for sharing with us.
Sure, man. No problem. Anytime. And so guys can get a hold of me on our website, www.YellowLetterHQ.com. You can send an email to me as well, Todd@YellowLetterHQ. And we can send you a link if you want to kind of get a mail strategy going. I meet with my investors, my customers, 4 appointments a day, 15-minute blocks. And at any time, you can set an available slot up through our calendar system, and you can get a chance to talk to me and kind of go over what you're doing and where you want to go. So that's pretty unique and a pretty good thing. And also, I do a lot of getting more active in the social media space. If you want to hit me up on chat on Facebook, I respond to those pretty much on the fly, pretty quick as I'm going through my day.
Awesome, Todd. And I see your shirt on there. What do you got there?
Oh, what do I have here? Investor Fuel, like we were talking about before.
Yeah. Todd's a member of our Investor Fuel Mastermind. Really, just a wealth of knowledge. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past, I guess, couple of years, really. Yeah. But so, Todd, I'm going to ask for a shameless plug here while we're here.
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about Investor Fuel and I guess what you didn't know I was going to ask you this. So, but what are the value? Give me a little plug to the people that are out there. Honestly, there's a lot of people that ask about it. We've created a lot of buzz. It's the people that are in the group know that it's just a wealth of knowledge and a lot of really great people. But just share your thoughts on give us your elevator pitch on Investor Fuel.
Right. So I've had a unique experience of being invited to a lot of masterminds. And because of my knowledge and my position here in the direct mail space. And what I like most about Investor Fuel is first, the people. This business can kind of attract the type A personalities, which are there, absolutely. And there's a certain attitude that sometimes comes with those type A personalities. But with Investor Fuel, the people I've met in that group are just salt of the earth, down to earth, and giving people. And who you have there is kind of a whole team of guys like me. I'm in there. There's all... John Martinez is an advisor. Trevor Mock, who owner of OnCare, and you have every facet you need of this business in that room to have personal relationships with the people that are doing the work and direct access to them. So any problem I have in my business, marketing, I come to you. Sales, I go to John. And to be able to have that resource is really just a catapult my business. And for me, it's not so much as catapulting my business, which is absolutely important. It's just the peace of mind of knowing who I can go to get the answers to my questions. And I'm not here flustering, picking up, trying to relearn stuff and try to be excellent at something I suck at,
Yeah.
And so to have all those people and those resources in that group has just been awesome. So we meet once a quarter, and it's at different places throughout the country. And we talk a lot about ROI in my business because that's really important. And you're going to put out X amount of dollars, you need to get X amount back.
Right.
And for me, the ROI for Investor Fuel has just been off the chart. This is not just for me getting customers. This is me building my business, growing my business, and learning different things for my business in its growth, and it contributed mostly to Investor Fuel. So it's just been awesome, man.
That's great. Thank you. And one of the things that, I'm always biased if I say things, but one of the things, I've been in other mastermind groups too. One of the things that I'll say is, we focus a lot on life. Like, why do we work so hard? I mean, a lot of us entrepreneurs are, like, I have 5,000 Facebook friends, but I don't have 5,000 like best friends that I share my darkest secrets with, So it's like, we're all connected. Not a lot of us understand how important social media is for our business, but then kind of sometimes we go home and we feel alone, right?
Right.
Don't have anybody to talk to. And I think it's been, I won't take, it's my group. I won't take credit for this happening. It just evolved by getting the right people in the room. But there are people in there that have created like lifelong friendships and, doing deals to get some really cool stuff that's just a byproduct of it. I mean, you'd agree with that, I assume?
Yeah. And there's some really big players in that group doing some really large partnerships as well, and doing the work-life balance thing together. So it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for that. So everybody, this was episode number 442 with Todd Swaggerty. Great guy, great company. I mean, we recommend everybody we can to go to YellowLetterHQ if you're not using them now. As the show comes out here, we're actually just a little bit before the Christmas holiday here. So anyway, happy holidays to everybody. We really appreciate you. If you have not subscribed, if you're thinking of like, well, what can I get Mike for Christmas here? I've got a little request. Go out and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you listen to us or watch the show at. And of course, all of our shows, all of our content, thousands of hours of content for free you can get access to on flipnerd.com. So we appreciate you guys. We've got some exciting changes coming with the show in the year ahead. We'll be announcing those soon. But actually, we're coming up here. I don't know if I said this out loud before. We're literally just a couple weeks away from our 5-year anniversary of this show. So hard to believe it's been that long, but it has. So Todd, thanks again for being with us today.
No problem, man. Anytime.
Awesome. And everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. Real estate investing can be a lonely business for successful real estate investors, but it doesn't have to be. Investor Fuel members meet 4 times a year, but we talk to each other 365 days a year, and we focus on improving the profitability of our businesses, improving the quality of our lives. That's why we do this, right? And making an impact on those around us so we can truly leave a legacy. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the flipnerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet a member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed masterclass published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of masterclasses and other training videos. Members also get membership in our incredible online mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com. That's flipnerd.com. See you on the next show.